Hello, YouTubers. This is a special session, and I'm joined today by a person that I got to know very recently, a very kind and very inspiring person in terms of the impact that she's bringing to the tech community here in Seattle, Washington state area. This session is to help you learn about the journey of an immigrant that came from India and chasing her dreams as a software engineer, building communities in our Seattle area, greater Seattle area, and how she's helping a lot of communities in our community here to kind of get a chance and opportunity to get a job and learn about the tech industry and get the right education, that helps them kind of build a greater life for themselves. So, without any further ado, I'm joined today by Yasmin. Hi, Yasmin. How are you doing?
Pretty good. How are
Oh,
you?
pretty good. Pretty good. So, do you wanna tell people a little bit about yourself, where you came from, and how you started, you in the tech journey, and what do you do today?
Well, um, as Hassan said, I originally moved from India over 30 years ago. And there are a lot of immigrants who come to this country, and I was one of them. Luckily, I had a bachelor's when I moved here. And I was immediately able to enroll into a computer science program, did my bachelor's again, and also went on to do my master's in computer science.
Nice.
So this was only because I had a family who was able to kind of help me push and give me that opportunity. I mean, as everybody knows, education, a 4-year degree is not cheap,
Hmm.
and
Hmm.
it seems to be a privilege now, for a lot of people.
Hmm.
So I was definitely one of those, blessed people who was able to continue and do a 4-year degree plus continue my master's and then work for a while. But I did take a break after that. After about 10 years of working, I took a break for my family. I
Hmm.
homeschooled my children till they were about, high school age. And during that time, I was not just homeschooling them, but also got into a lot of community activities. And
Nice.
I'm part of an organization in Redmond, Washington, called the Muslim Association of Puget Sound, where I got involved, especially on the education side of things, where we used to teach religious as well as secular education.
Hmm.
And I got to meet a lot of people from all parts of the world. If you walk into maps, they call it maps, you would probably see over 50 languages, people from 50 different countries of the world, coming and from the basic, the living wage, low wage to the C-suite levels of people. And but the one thing that connects them is, their love for education and getting ahead in life. And a lot of them come to this country with even very very little, language skills as well. And they definitely want to get better, provide good education for the children. And I sort of got into this mentor sort of position. um, I would, help them with their education, be their guardian in sort of, signing on their public school names as a guardian, and helping
Hmm.
them with things that, renting a place for them, all the credit check that you would have to go through,
Wow.
opening bank accounts, just very basic stuff that we take for granted.
Hmm.
These people definitely needed help.
Okay.
And as I got to, do that, and being in the education sector, um, so I got to interact with very closely with a lot of people.
Hmm.
And as I was kind of transitioning, my kids were older, they were going into public school, and I was wanting to get back, but I knew for sure that, I was not going back as a software engineer. 9 to 5 job was not for me.
Hmm.
And so I figured, okay, let me help these people who don't have an opportunity to get into tech, help with my tech background. Let me help bring a marriage between community and tech. And that's the reason that I started Skillspire. So Skillspire is that bridge that
Mm-hmm.
bridges that gap that exists in the tech sector.
Mm-hmm.
I mean, we talk about diversity since George Floyd,
Yep.
it's murder. But I we started this back in 2016 and have been very focused on underrepresented communities, women, minorities,
Mm-hmm.
and lately veterans as well. And veterans seem to be in the same boat.
Mm-hmm.
They go right after high school, they live in a very sheltered environment, and when they come into the civilian workforce, they need a lot of help. So we're very, very focused on those kind, and that's how Skillspire came to be, and it's been very rewarding experience.
Mm-hmm.
If in a matter of say a year or 6 months to 8 months, you're changing the lives of people by providing them with very, very concise, short term, anywhere from 3 to 6 months of education,
Mm-hmm.
and then helping mentor them to get
Mm-hmm.
into job support and job search kind of services. So it's been extremely rewarding.
That's really awesome. And I love the name Skillspire. Inspire and give the skill set. I love it. I love it. It combines the spirituality of the passion, of what drives you to actually accomplish work, but also here's the real world material, skills, the things that you really need to kind of fulfill your aspirations. Well, let me ask you this. How big is the gap today in terms of diversity? I know that some people get the chance to be born, in the right country with the right family. They get the right, you get the education, all out of the box. You're fine. You're privileged. You already have what it takes to succeed. How big is the gap between these underrepresented communities, minorities, disadvantaged and unprivileged communities, and where the tech industry today, from your observation? Because you're in the field, your boots on the ground, you're actually seeing the actual gap, between people getting opportunities right away because they went to Harvard versus people who, they were just born to poor families and they didn't have that chance to get there. Hmm. Hmm.
Hassan, it's huge. When I started back in 2016, the first year, I figured that there's no use to just start offering classes right away. So the first entire year, what I did was to reach out to a lot of community organizations here in Seattle locally,
Hmm.
talking to the case managers who are directly dealing with these immigrants and refugees that come into this country.
Hmm.
And for them, tech was never an option. So
Hmm.
my role became more of an advocacy role, telling that hey, you're always sending them to poor Seattle, the airport jobs, and which is great, which is
Hmm.
great
Hmm.
starting living wage, but
Hmm.
they need to kind of get to the next level.
Yeah.
And so I had to actually start and sit down and talk about all these possibilities that are there in the tech sector, and educate these case managers themselves, and
Hmm.
in turn getting to the client. And that was a huge piece, and it still continues now. I think after almost 4 years now, we see a lot of the workforce development councils and community organizations, everyone realizing that hey, what, IT is here to stay,
Yep.
and diversity is definitely needed in all the products that the IT companies are trying to develop.
Hmm.
The world has become a melting pot for sure,
Hmm. Hmm.
and we're building products that spans the whole globe, and so they're realizing that diversity is absolutely needed.
Hmm.
And so that's where we started. And now I think, even when I look right now, there are a lot of companies that do want to do the right things, but they just don't know how to get there.
Hmm.
you know
Hmm.
because they're very, I think, they've always been doing something where your network, and that's where you go, the
Yep.
ATS system. It's just the same thing over and over again, and
Hmm.
it's like a vicious cycle where you get stuck in that same way of recruiting, same way
Hmm.
of networking,
Hmm.
and it just don't go beyond. So I think the gap still exists,
Hmm.
and And then we see that, during the pandemic, there are millions of women who left the workforce to take
Right.
care of their children.
Mhm.
And I was a, returning mom, and even with a master's, in computer science, I felt it very intimidating to come back.
Mhm. Mhm.
So,
Mhm.
and it can get confusing. I mean, it's almost as if I was completely starting from scratch.
Mhm.
And um, it's definitely very, and I talk to a lot of women as well who
Mhm.
come back, after a break, and are like, hey, I don't know, I lack the confidence, I need some help, I need a mentor. How do I go? And it's some sort of a fear, it's
Just
uh,
confidence
just,
in a
yeah,
way.
a lack
Yeah.
of
Yeah.
confidence. But when you kind of get them started, in a month you see a huge difference. They're like, women are, of course, they multitask really well.
Yep.
And
Yep.
and then the one thing that I also hear is, I don't necessarily want to go into coding. IT is not just about coding. There are
That's
lots
right.
of aspects to it, right?
Mhm.
But when
Mhm.
you have the foundations,
Mhm.
then it's just an easier sell for your sell, for yourself. And yeah, and I think it's still the gap is huge. What do you think? You're in the industry.
Yep.
You work at Microsoft.
Yep.
Microsoft is pushing for a lot of diversity. Is everyone talking the talk and walking the walk? You
I
tell me.
th I think we have a lot of I think we have a lot of work to do. I think there is still a lot of work to do in terms of, first of all, making technology accessible. That's the most important thing. Like from a um from education standpoint, I still see, the availability of the materials, the way you're educating people about, things. Let me give you a high level example. I remember how much everyone hated math when I was in school. Everyone hated math. It was too abstract. It didn't make sense. And what teachers used to say at a time, they used to say something to the effect of, "Oh, what are you going to do if someone asked you, one day, what is integration?" And they were like, who cares? I'll tell them I don't know. It doesn't really help in any way, shape, or form. And then, I had the chance to kind of do my own research and find out, integration in math. Okay, you're doing these integration, equations. What do people are using that for? And I started to dig deeper into real world examples of what this is being used for. And I realized that one of the amazing aspects of integration equations is that it basically predicts where something is going to be in the future based on a consistent pattern. Astronauts and people who work in the space industry, they use that to know where a satellite is going to be in 10 years so it doesn't collide with another satellite. So I took that knowledge and I went to a bunch of people who are studying math and I said, "Hey guys, do you know what integration is being used for? It's being used for this and this and that." And they were mind blown by that. It's like you unlocked, this idea in their heads, like, I hate it, it's useless to me. It doesn't, it makes sense to us because we as human beings, why would I learn something that I don't see its benefit? When people go and say, "Oh, just get the paper, just get the degree and then do whatever you want," you're basically getting a child, to sign up on a 12 years of their lives, right, to go through an education system that they believe none of it, they don't see the benefit of it, just so at the end, so they can end up sitting on a chair somewhere in some corporate, doing something they also don't like either. So I feel like there's a huge problem that's going on, and I think the accessibility and the, allowing people to learn technology, from an early age when I was trying to learn about software, the materials, how software is being taught for people is also really repulsive, right? Like if you open up a book about software engineering, it's so easily that the authors will, dig a rabbit hole and fall in it, and they can't pull themselves out. They get too deep into details that are not necessary and are not important now. Like, you should be able to differentiate between I want to know how the processor is taking my machine code and working with it, versus I want to be able to build an enterprise application that I can go sell in the market, something that helps me, make an impact, change something, right? This this difference here, in how technology is being taught. And in addition to how technology being taught, we have to understand that for the communities that you're trying to help with your center and the materials that you're presenting them, these communities don't have the luxury of time to sit down and learn about all the nitty gritty details of every single tick that happens on the processor. Instead, they want working knowledge that they can pick up and run with and go change the world with. This is really what this is. So to answer your question, of course there's a huge gap. The whole reason why we're having this session is to help people kind of understand that technology isn't just some fancy code that you write and pretty pictures and buttons and web applications and mobile applications that put out there. Technology now is livelihood for people. It impacts these communities. And then I come at the end of the road and I say, okay, this is your livelihood. Let's purpose it. Let's go and do something actually impactful for humanity, right? Like you just don't sit there all day doing a job that you don't necessarily know that it actually helps anybody. There are these things that people do. Yeah, it is a paying job, but are you actually making an impact, right? That's the next step to that. So there's the step of having access to education, to technology. You're already doing that. We want to give people access to opportunity. Already, you already have the education. Now the opportunity, something as simple as an internship, right? Something as simple as, hey, let's, hire you as a contractor, right? As a contractor, you come in and say, okay, we're going to work for us for 6 months by the hour. Let's see, it builds that experience, right? And then the third aspect of this, once they land a job, the to purposefy, their day-to-day work, right? I see people, Yasmin, I think that the fact that we need to take 2 years or a year and a half to come up with a vaccine for a virus that is killing people by the hour, that shows you how behind we are in terms of technology and in terms of the purpose, in terms of where we're actually headed, in terms of brain power, right? If a meteor is headed towards our planet, we can't do nothing about it. We're way too weak to actually do anything about it, right? In fact, actually, the other day I was watching this movie, Don't Look Up. It's a new movie that just, came out. And it's talking about this meteor that's about to hit the planet and how people are so distracted with how technology made people so glued up to their screens and so distracted with social media that they can't focus on the things that matter the most. So technology needs a little bit of a shift in course in terms of access to education, opportunity, and then purpose. These three things are where the impact can actually happen. Now, let me ask you this. I heard you're building this amazing AI machine learning based platform that helps understand the learning pattern. Do you want to talk a little bit about that one?
Yeah, so I just want to just add a quick point that I have a high schooler or a freshman high schooler, and I hear
Uh-huh.
from her all the time, why do I have to do this math that it's never going to help me in my law education, because she wants to do law. So I can completely empathize with these kinds of statements at home. But to your question about we are building a tool, or we were intending to build a tool.
Mhm,
Right now, when a person comes to us, say a person who's come from Somalia, which we do get a lot of students from,
mhm,
and they've gone through certain backgrounds. They maybe have an education in economics or math or civil engineering or whatever it may be. So we
mhm,
sit down and kind of talk through everything, and we probably get maybe partial information as to how they are as a learner.
mhm,
This tool that we intend to build, we want to make sure that if this person is a visual learner, maybe adapt. their learning materials more visually. If
Hmm.
they're an auditory learner, then maybe, so we're trying to build a tool to analyze what sort of learning patterns that these students would really excel in
Hmm.
eventually, and also what career pathway would actually be a good fit for them.
Hmm.
We don't want to bunch everybody into the coding thing and say that, hey, this is, this
This is
is
how it is. One
this is
size
how
fit
you,
all,
one size
right?
fits all. Yeah. So that's, it's just not going to work.
Hmm.
And so this is what we're planning as an AI and ML tool. And you have been very, very helpful and instrumental in making that proposal as well, and we hope that we get to build that tool very soon.
Yeah, absolutely. So the tool is detecting the learning pattern of the person. So before just spoon feeding people material that may or may not be digestible to them in terms of education, we get to know them first and we get to know how they learn first before we start presenting them with information in the way that fits. We understand that people learn differently. I always give people the example. I say, you can't blame the elephant for not being able to climb a tree, and you can't blame the monkey for not being able to swim, in the lake. They're different creatures
Mhm.
with different skill sets, and if you try to kind of measure everybody with the exact same, way and at least, give them the information the exact same way, you're almost very likely are going to fail a good portion of people, which is what's happening today. Like think about schooling systems. People go to schools, they're being, just fed the exact same information the exact same way across the board, which is horrible. This is brutal to us as people, and we're very backwards when it comes to technology in terms of education. But people are being taught the exact same way, and then a lot of those people that tell you, oh, I'm a dropout. I just decided to go work at somewhere else where I just stopped following my dreams. I really wanted to be a doctor. I really wanted to be an engineer. I really wanted to be an astronaut, but just I didn't feel challenged. I didn't feel inspired. So imagine this. Remember how I was just saying, it took us so many years, just a year and a half, to be able to detect a cure to a virus, right? All of these schools dropouts, these are potential scientists that if they were approached the right way, they could have expedited our evolution process. As humanity, how are we evolving in terms of technology and knowledge, and how we're dealing with modern problems with modern solutions.
And
Okay,
I
so
can,
this.
and I can, tell you that when I'm talking to students, potential students who come to us, there
Mhm.
are so many people who say that,
Mhm.
hey, I enrolled in a program, I enrolled in the community college, but it's just not for me. There's just so many different things that they talk about, and it just doesn't keep my interest, and I dropped out. Um,
Mhm.
I would say about 5 out of 10, 50% say that.
Wow.
And we're also seeing a lot of people who are transitioning now,
Mhm.
people from construction, people
Mhm.
from healthcare. I think they're completely burnt out. Y-
Yeah.
in
Yeah.
fact, I had a lady who sent an email who says that, hey, I'm in a nurse job and it's a circus. It's a
Mhm.
circus in the hospital right now. And I definitely want to change, but I just don't know. I don't have the time because I have to be, just be doing what I have to do right now. And I just have to make time and I'm not able to.
Mhm.
So
Mhm.
these are some of the things that we hear from people.
There,
So,
there's there's also another aspect of this. Like most of these jobs are destined to be automated, right? Like a lot of these jobs that people do, I always, this is my biggest concern, my biggest fear as a technologist is that, as I'm building software, the scariest thing to me is that I automate someone else's livelihood, right? Because that's not a nice thing. It might be fancy, on paper. Oh, look, we automated we automated cooking, so now all you have to do, and there's already like an arm that people are selling, like the arm basically cooks the food, so nobody needs to actually hire a cook or a chef to actually do the work. On paper it sounds great, right? But in reality, ethically, it's really, really gut wrenching to actually see someone losing their jobs to a machine. So helping people kind of transition from manual jobs. right, into the tech industry where they still can use their domain experience, like a nurse, a nurse in a hospital
Right.
transitioning into the tech industry, and working in the tech industry in the exact same domain that she's already experienced with, because learning technology alone is not enough. You need some domain, you need some
Right.
knowledge of some certain domain, okay? So transitioning in that direction and allowing people to make that transition as smooth and easy as possible shall eventually make the automation of most of these jobs a lot easier and a lot less, problematic in terms of ethics. But also at the same time, we know that it's inevitable. People are not going to stop automating things, right? Yesterday I was driving towards Kenmore, and I saw this little robot, the Amazon robot that delivers, the packages. So now you don't need, there will be a point in time where you don't need someone to actually carry your package and drop it in front of your house. It's just finding their way. A robot, self-driving, just going across the street and knows exactly where the house. It has cameras on it so it can read the house number and all that kind of stuff. This thing is going to evolve. It can climb stairs. It's really interesting. And of course, you have on the other side the Boston Dynamics. I don't know, Yasmin, if you heard of these people. Boston Dynamics. They're basically building very interesting autonomous. I'm going to share my screen with you here just to show people what I'm talking about. Um, the autonomous robots Boston Dynamics build. Um, they build a machinery or robots that can do a lot of things. This is just to show kind of, ability. They can dance, they can run, they can, do a lot of things. As soon as there's millions and millions of dollars invested into this, and it's not just for fun. Like when you invest $1 million into this, you can replace the entire, crew in a factory of 4,000 workers with a bunch of these,
Yeah.
right? And they can very easily, like right now, these are not for sale, they're not in use, but they will be, right? They have a dog and they have this is I thought at the beginning when I saw this, I thought it was just, oh, this is just a some CGI or something, but it's actually real. Like this dog here is for sale, $70,000. You can have this thing, you can do whatever you want with it. You can program it, it will do tasks for you day in and day out, right? So knowing that automation of these manual tasks today is inevitable begs the question of what are these people that are doing these tasks they are going to do. So
Right.
we want to give them the ability to have access to information, and then through centers like your center, is it, do I call it a center or what do you call it?
No, we it's more of an academy,
Academy. Okay, through your academy.
or
Okay.
yeah.
Okay, so through your academy, people get to have access to information, but more importantly, you're also using technology to detect the learning pattern, so these people don't feel like, it's not repulsive. It's simple for them to understand technology, and
Yes.
go ahead, go
Yeah,
ahead.
yeah. So we do have people, and I mentioned to you that we do have a lot of people that come from healthcare industry, insurance industry, and they said, "Hey, we want to get into tech. That seems to be the place where we can do work remote.
Hmm.
I can actually travel and be anywhere, and and pays good. So data analytics, as has
Hmm.
is really really growing,
Uh-huh.
and and a lot of people in the healthcare industry have all definitely dealt with data. So we tell them that hey, you come with that healthcare experience, you come with that domain expertise,
Hmm.
which is huge when you're building and you're looking at data, and building, making some very important decisions. So yeah, I mean, that's one area that we definitely recommend some of our students, and it's been quite popular, very popular, I should say.
Awesome, awesome. I also I also wanted to touch real quick on the curriculum within your academy. So we talked a little bit about this, and we're gonna experiment with adapting the standard, the engineering standard, where people can actually, learn technology from experience. It's people that are following me on YouTube and LinkedIn, they know exactly what I'm talking about when it comes to the standard. A simpler, easier way, end-to-end framework, that allows people to build end-to-end software, enterprise level software in the fastest time possible. And then, I I'm really excited about this because, yeah, I do run into people accidentally, that someone stand up, and says, "Hey, I heard about your code. I want to learn about it." Some people, follow me from different paths, like they learn about OData or Blazor, and then they come to realize there's this engineering standard that's in place that actually controls, how we build software. Your academy is adapting that as a curriculum. We're going to try it out and see how things work. What do you think about that? Are you excited about, picking up an engineering
Absolutely. I
standard?
mean, we're very excited to work with you on that. Some of the courses that we actually offer right at this time are the full stack web development and software engineering courses, Java, C Sharp, Azure, AWS, data analytics, and cybersecurity. But these are very, different sort of courses, and all across, as you mentioned, that we want to introduce the engineering standard into all of these courses. And we're very excited. In fact, we've recruited some students to see how, from zero to hero,
Yep,
they go from zero to hero.
yep.
We're excited, and we're hoping to see some great results. Yeah.
Absolutely. And for the other aspect of this is that people that will be able to consume, materials that are standardized, things that follow the standard, will also have a real life exposure to the open source community. You see, we're going full circle there, which really, it makes my heart happy to hear that and see that how this is evolving. Having access to the open source community, meaning that whatever they're learning, whatever time they're investing into learning technology, it's not just going into their heads and, disappearing, in terms of impact. They're actually learning by learning the engineering standard and then joining open source projects where they can actually impact the community in a meaningful way. And as so many people in this on this channel, may know, that them accessing, open source projects that follow the engineering standard means that they will be able to have all their efforts kind of monitored and recognized through GitFile. So the system will allow them to kind of go in and be able to contribute and be on a leaderboard, so they can actually see where they stand in terms of ranking. And I built this leaderboard specifically so, recruiters and people who are looking for people with talent can go and pick up the right talent. Now you have access to all of these people that are contributing to the open source community. You can so easily find someone in that community and be able to go and say, well, I want to know whether they're a back end engineer or a front end engineer or a full stack engineer. The system will generate their resume for them, so they don't have to write resumes, for themselves. They don't have to go find someone to write a resume. The resume is generated out of their code. On top of all of this, they know to know their strengths and give them opportunities to continue to grow. So it's more of a systematic way where people know what the next step is. Where do I rank? What's my level? How many days have I been investing in open source communities? What's my contributions exactly? So I feel like, maybe we're going in a direction where, we're giving people certainty. We're learning about their patterns, and we're giving them the opportunity for an internship. And also we're giving them an opportunity to know where they stand in a kind of gamification kind of way. This is your rank, this is where you stand, and all that kind of stuff. Okay.
I have to tell you that I'm actually extremely extremely excited. This is, I think, one of my biggest dreams, to have a very formal internship program at the end. You know, you can get a lot of people trained. I mean, but to give them that, say, 3 to 6 months hands-on, mentorship and training and real world experience, where they can put that in their resume or on their git file, as you're talking
Uh-huh.
about, and then showcase that to the
Yep.
hiring manager, is huge. I have a lot of students, it's like, hey, do you provide placement services? Do you provide an internship? That's one of the most asked question every time I talk to a student.
Yep.
And by this partnership, um, we are elated to take it to the next step and provide this to our students. And I think this will be a huge game changer for us for next year. And I'm really looking forward to the partnership.
Yeah, I'm really excited, to, have people in my startup, PureSoft LLC, to come in and, get that experience, and hopefully they, will be able to see real life projects being built. What's more important to me, I understand it's just how our industry is set up today. You need to have that kind of experience, right? But what's more important to me through the startup is for them to be able to get real life experience and actually carry a value wherever they go.
Mhm.
Because eventually, at some point in time, our industry is not always going to be in this bureaucratic way that it is today, right? In fact, actually, one of the biggest goals that I have with GitFile as a project is to allow people to kind of work on whatever project from anywhere and be treated the same. So what that basically means is that these tasks that people, the opportunities that people find on GitFile, they're going to be monetized, right? Someone is coming to me and saying, "Hey, build me this project." I'm going to put this project out there on GitFile, and then every task has a price on it. And once the person completes the task, they get paid for it, and that's it. So this way, if you this month want to make $10,000 a month, you can, just lock yourself in for 10 days, make your $10,000 and spend the rest of the month just having a vacation for yourself. I find that model to be the healthiest for people to kind of find their time for vacation, work whenever they want to work, not work whenever they don't want to work, without having to worry about, losing jobs or, making the manager angry or any of that kind of stuff. So I'm really excited, to take people in my startup, to give them that kind of internship, to give them the experience they need. And hopefully at some point in time, they'll be able to go out there and change the world with their experiences and be able to be useful for their families, for themselves first, for their families, and also for their communities. If you teach someone something, they're gonna go teach other people. I think Yasmin, you and I, kind of got to know each other uh through Shri, and Deborah, which is, people that I was just working with to kind of help them understand, my ideas and my engineering standards and all that kind of stuff. This networking, the ability to connect people genuinely and sincerely is really, really important because it can create a lot of opportunities for all of us.
Yeah, absolutely. So I have a question for you. So the Git file that you have you thought about actually providing access to recruiters in different companies?
Today it does. Like, this leadership board is accessible for everyone around the world.
Mm,
Like, today, if you are a recruiter today, and you want to actually find talent, you can absolutely find today, like, if you go into the leaderboard like this, all of these people, these are resumes available on the public platform, right? I can actually just go anywhere. Let me pick up just a very random person like this. You can actually see their resume, and their resume is built out of their contribution. So it's not just, BS being built in there that doesn't reflect on data. No, that's really heavily
mm,
data driven, meaning that anybody that is writing code every day, they write code. Like, there's a guy that just joined, the open source community just literally yesterday, right? Let me show you how this looks like. So this gentleman, I think he's so Elbic, this is worldwide, right? He just literally joined yesterday. He pushed a very simple code change, right? A very simple code change that kind of what we call code drop. It basically changes how a variable is defined, something very simple like a refactoring, right? This one tiny contribution already started generating his resume out of that contribution. It already said, okay, this guy's familiar with code cleanup, chores, and basic, simple tasks. The more code they write, the bigger this resume gets. You see?
mhm,
So the resume is real time data-driven reflection of what this person is actually contributing. You know, it's not just a it's not just someone, oh, let's go there and say the master of engineering, the techno king that knows everything. Nope, I'm telling you, this is a description that matches code that just came into the open source community
So
yesterday.
let me ask you this. So
Uh-huh.
do the recruiters who have access to this have to have any sort of technical knowledge to kind of comb through the resume? Or is
Absolutely
it
not.
a simple link?
Absolutely. They just need to have the link, which is this link here.
Right.
Basically the leaderboard. That's it. If they go to getfile.com/leaderboard, that's it. That's access to everybody. There's one other thing that I noticed. I was just talking to Shri yesterday, my friend, and I said to her, see how amazing this is. When you give people fair shot at the world and fair access, is it a surprise to you that the top of the board are women, the highest contributors in that board? And this is free for all. Like, I created the systems and these people are beating me at it. You know what I mean? So, is it a surprise to you that the highest contributors by a mile and a mile and a mile, 700 points compared to 300, like double the effort, and I work day and night, right? It tells you something. It tells you a story about how underrepresented communities and minorities, women, people from all different backgrounds, if you give them a fair shot and actually invest in their education, they can do things nobody can do today. This is
Absolutely.
this is my faith. This is why I say give people the fair shot and be unbiased based on data, not anything else. And if that happens, we can eliminate a lot of the nonsense that happens today in terms of systematic racism, discrimination, and all that kind of stuff that we see on daily basis.
I couldn't
It's,
agree with you more.
Yasmin, it's always a pleasure to talk to like-minded people, people who look forward. I have great respect and love and passion for people that, try to go beyond their own little personal circle. Like, it's easy for everybody out there to say, oh, just me and my kids and my family, and that's it. But going outside of that bubble is why we have a lot of great things today. If the people that invented all of these great inventions around us just said, "Oh, listen, man, let me just have a job and get paid, have a sandwich and go home," we would still be riding horses today and lighting fire to get heat. So I think the stuff that you do is pushing our community, our human community forward. It's pushing all of us forward, giving people a shot to be innovators, to change the world, not just get a job, but do something meaningful with their lives. And I look forward to our partnerships. I'm really excited about working with you. Do you have any last remarks before we wrap up?
Yeah. The thing that you said that, giving people a shot, even for me, I think if you had asked me about 10 years ago if are you interested in starting a company or anything, it's like I would have laughed at you because that was not what I was doing and never had the intention. It's just over time, I think life pushes you into so many different things
Mm-hmm.
and it carves some sort of a pathway that realize that okay, now is the time for me to kind of give back.
Mm-hmm.
And I mean, for me, I come from a minority background as well, so it's
Mm-hmm.
really hard even for me as an entrepreneur, as a social impact entrepreneur, to make the change in the world with my just the small boot camp or an academy that we have.
Mm-hmm.
So by making partnerships with people like you who are out there building technologies, it's a huge boost. And it's and we in turn together go back and give this back to the communities that we really want to serve. So
Yeah.
yeah, thank you very much for having me.
Thank you so much, Yasmin. Thank you guys for watching. And of course, if you have any questions for me or Yasmin, please feel free to drop a comment in the comment section. And as usual, don't forget to like and subscribe. I'll see you in another video. Thank you, Yasmin.
Thank you.